Good morning. Welcome to the Pitt River Health Service Nutrition and Recipe class. My name is Jacqueline Thompson. I'm a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes care and education specialist. And I am here to bring this class to you this morning. And I'm going to share my screen so we can begin the PowerPoint, and then we will view a short video of a demonstration of the recipe featured for today. So, one moment, please. Can you all see my screen? Okay, well. So the recipe featured today is a sauerkraut recipe. So for this month of April, the theme is healthy digestion and supporting good digestion. And we're featuring a sauerkraut recipe because it is a nice way to help support digestion. Sauerkraut is a good source of probiotics, and fermented foods in general help to support the immune system, can support positive mood and mental health, weight management, and this particular recipe is a good source of these specific vitamins and minerals: vitamin C, vitamin K1, iron, folate, manganese, copper, and potassium. So just a little bit about this topic of fermented foods first. So how do probiotics help support gut health? We have a balance of bacteria in our digestive tract. Some are considered beneficial bacteria. So when the numbers of these beneficial bacteria are higher, or microbes, they're also called microbes. When the numbers of these beneficial bacteria are higher, and the numbers of bacteria that can be problematic when they're in high numbers, when they're lower, this actually helps to support gut health. It helps to support digestion. And this balance of bacteria, the good bacteria to the bacteria that may become problematic if they overgrow, this balance is what has the effect on the immune system, on our mood, and also can affect weight control. So high numbers of specific bacteria can actually increase the amount of calorie extraction from foods that we eat, and therefore can create a little more challenge with weight control. So if we have the balance of those bacteria that don't extract as much calories, then that can help with weight control. We have 70% of our immune system located in our gut, in our digestive tract. And so this is the primary immune system. And by supporting the balance of the bacteria there, that is a way of supporting our immune system. So these are just some overview points on the benefits of fermented foods. And then we will get into our specific recipe of sauerkraut, and we'll talk about how various uses for this recipe, and we'll also view the video demonstration. So this is the actual link to the video, and I will try playing it here. If for any reason it doesn't play, then I will play it separately after the presentation. Yeah, okay. So I will play it after the presentation. It's not opening. So this is the link to the video. And when you click on the video, it will show the demonstration. And one thing that's mentioned in this video is something called an easy fermenting lid or fermenting cap. This is something optional to use if you know, it's a preference. There's another way of making the sauerkraut without using it. So I'll talk about that too. So I'll show the video in just a moment. This is the alternative to using the cap. So in the video, it describes using the cap to create the fermentation process. And with this, you can, instead of using the cap, which seals the sauerkraut, the cabbage down into the sauerkraut so that it ferments, an alternate way is to use plastic bags, small sealable plastic bags filled with salt water. And those can be used as weights to sit on top of the cabbage to make the sauerkraut. And it's important that, you know, if it were to leak at all, that, you know, it's salt, brine, water. And one thing that will be mentioned in the video is that iodized salt is not to be used for fermenting because it kills the microbes that cause the fermentation. So it would be a non-iodized type of salt to use to make these little brine bags. So they can sit on top of the cabbage, and so the cabbage is fully submerged and covered by the water. So this is the alternative, and that will be shown in the video. Okay, so as we've talked about in earlier sessions, plant compounds, and also known as phytonutrients, these compounds have powerful effects on health. And studies show that people who eat more plants have a lower risk of chronic health conditions such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and cancer. Studies have also shown that eating more plant foods help to support brain health and lower inflammation. So they have many positive benefits. Okay, so I am going to go to the video and play the video.
Why should we be eating sauerkraut? So sauerkraut is a fermented food, which means it's full of probiotics. And that is what's great for gut health. It's going to help you digest your food better and absorb nutrients from your food better. So, you know, if you can, at some part of every day, include just a tablespoon, even just a tablespoon of some type of fermented food, like sauerkraut, kimchi, tempeh, things like that. Maybe just as a little condiment, somehow get those in there, and your gut health is going to be super strong, and it's going to improve your digestibility and your health. So let's just started. I'm going to show you what you're going to need. I just ordered this online and I've used it a couple times and it is genius. I love this guy. It's just the easy fermenter. It's just a lid that has all of the stuff in it that will allow the gases to escape. And what I was using before it, is a little system with a lid with a hole in it with an airlock, and it's still, your container still bubbles over, and it's a bit of a mess. But this guy controls all of that, and it has this handy dandy little sliding. You can set the date, and how long you want to ferment. So you don't forget. It's great. So you're going to need something like that, or you can just do this with a typical old style fermenting crock. If somebody out there has one of those are great too. But I like these, but there's many different versions online. Go ahead and look for it, but I'll give you a link to this one in the details below. You're going to need a 2-quart size jar. You can make half this amount if you want. So half a cabbage, a 1-quart jar, but today we're going to make the full cabbage into a 2-quart jar. And you're going to need salt. You can use many different types of salt, but the only one you cannot use is iodized salt. Use iodized salt. The iodine ends up killing the enzymes that is what you want to have in your food. So we're just going to get going. You're going to take your head of cabbage, and what we're going to do is we're going to take you rinse it off first, which I've already done, and we're going to take the 2 top leaves off because we're going to need those later. And then I'm going to cut the core out. That side. And then we're just going to start cutting it. I like to start by cutting it in half. It's a little bit easier to work with if you just start with the half. And then we're just going to slice it. You can use a mandolin or you can use your knife. But you just want really, really thin slices because you want to expose the cell wall, as much of the cell wall as you can of this cabbage, so that your sauerkraut ends up being really nice. And if your chunks are too big, then it ends up being kind of, it just doesn't get as soft, and it ends up being a little bit rubbery. You want to get it a nice small pieces. And you're also going to need a nice big bowl. You're going to have to massage all of this kale. Kale, I just said kale. You're going to have to massage all of this cabbage. Probably said that because I have a recipe for massaged kale, which is delicious, by the way, and you should check that out. Okay, I'm going to get the rest of this cut up, and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, there's our whole cabbage. So we get that all in our bowl. Set this guy aside. And this part, so sauerkraut is definitely not a low sodium food, but you are only eating a teeny bit of it every day. And I've scoured the internet for ways to make this low sodium. I do make it a little bit lower sodium than normal, but there's no way to do it with, well, there is a way to do it without salt, but it's very difficult to control the bacteria growth. You want the good bacteria growth from the natural enzymes and bacteria that are on the cabbage. If you don't use salt, then what happens is the bacteria from the air can get in there and start overpopulating with a not good type of bacteria. So you want to keep this safe. We want to eat safe food. We don't want any weird molds growing in there. So we're going to use salt. So it takes 1 tablespoon. Okay, just sprinkle it on there. And we're just going to start massaging this cabbage. And this is going to take you a while, and it's going to take some hand strength. But you want to just keep massaging, because that is what's going to break this cabbage down and make it really nice and soft and get the juices to come out, which is called the brine. And that is what's going to be in the jar that I'll show you in a little bit. So you just want to keep massaging and massaging and massaging until that juice starts coming out and pooling in the bottom of the bowl. And I'll show you when that happens. While we're waiting for that, I would like to share with you some of the exciting things we offer here on the show. Successfully transitioned to a plant-based holiday feast made easy cooking class. This course will take your time membership for $15 a month that offers okay, we're finally there. All right, so if you want to come in and take a little closer look, I'll show you about how much liquid needs to be down in that bowl. See how much liquid that is? It's probably about a cup worth of liquid at least. You know, and there's more. If you squeeze this cabbage like this, you can see how much is dripping out. It's amazing how that works, right? Okay. Ooh, my arms are tired. Okay, now for the next part. Bring our jar over here. And yes, this is messy, but afterward you can wipe everything down and clean it off. So now you just start putting the cabbage in there, in your bottle. You just keep layering it in there. And then you want to tamp it down. You get a layer like that, and then you want to tamp it down. And I don't have the fancy little wooden tool that they use to tamp it down, so I just use my fist. You just push it down real hard.
Vicki, can I help you with that Kool-Aid?
Is that it needs to stay below that liquid line. And you can't just add water. This has to be, you know, this is the brine, the salty brine from, I suppose you could make a brine on the side and pour it in there, but, you know, this is the traditional way. This is the way you want to do it. So keep pushing that down. And it looks like this is a, you know, maybe a too big of a jar for this process. But if you use a smaller jar, you know, you want to keep about that much space, a good 2 inches below the lid, because the cabbage is going to expand a little bit. And if you don't give it room to expand, it'll be a mess. Even with this fancy lid on there, I don't know how well it would do. Okay, so we got cabbage. Now we're just going to pour the rest of that brine in there. Cabbage. Make sure we get all this off the walls. Push it so the liquid is coming up to the top. Yeah, that looks perfect. Right? Now for these extra cabbage leaves. So you want to take just a couple chunks. Now the bigger, thicker stuff. You can fold it over a couple times. Maybe we don't need 2 pieces. Maybe just the 1 leaf is good enough. We're going to stick that down on top of that and press it down. That's going to help the cabbage stay down below that line. I'm going to use the other piece too, just as a double. Stick that on there. And typically you need a weight. The old crock style things have a weight that sits on top that keeps it down tight like that. But I don't have the weight. So I found this landscaping rock. I just scrubbed it off really great. Some people said you can put a Ziploc bag in there. You layer it down in there, and then you fill the bag halfway with water, and that water pressure will act like a weight. But I'm going to use my rock here, just on top of that. Press it down good. Okay. And then we're going to wipe off the rim of that lid. and put our lid on. But first, I'm going to put the date on there, and I'm going to start out with a 1-week process. You can go from 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It really matters just how strong you like your sauerkraut, or really sour. I like it kind of mild, but this time I did this one for a week, and I think this one I'm going to try for 2 weeks and just see what happens. So I'm going to set that for 2 weeks from now. And now I'm just going to screw that lid on. Okay, there we go. And then you want to just put this out of the way on your countertop. And it's really, your house needs to be above 70 degrees. If it's not above 70 degrees, this process is going to happen really, really slow, which is still okay. That's really the happiest where it's, 70, 75 degrees. So we're just going to set it out of the way on the countertop and just let it sit. So this guy, oh, and if you want to test it, after a week to see if it's sour enough, you take the lid off, and inside the box, well, I guess I haven't gotten it out yet, they have this little, the little plunger vacuum sealer that goes in the top of here to reseal the jar. Because once you open that jar, you're exposing it. The oxygen is going to get in there. So you'll seal it back up. If it's not done, give it a couple good pumps, and then it'll set it back on the counter. But here I have my sauerkraut that's already finished, and it's a week old, and you can see the difference in the color here. It starts out bright green like this, and you know it's close to finished when it starts turning this color. It's more of just a really light yellow almost. So we're gonna give that a taste. And you never want to stick that back in the jar, but crunchy, juicy, not too tart, because I only did it for a week. And even with that amount of salt, it doesn't taste too salty to me. So give this a try, guys. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, so now I would like to take a quick look at the recipes. So let me show those. One moment, please. Okay, so this is the recipe that we had for the sauerkraut. And this is the actual recipe that was shown on the video. And a couple of things that were mentioned, rather than the easy fermenter lid, the alternative of the brine-filled bags, which is described on the other sauerkraut recipe handout, and that's why you have two handouts. Also was mentioned adjusting the amount, so half a cabbage or a whole cabbage. Important to use non-iodized salt, so the iodine is not going to kill the bacteria, the beneficial bacteria that causes the fermentation. And she also mentioned in the video that this is not something that would be a low salt recipe per se, but the amounts are very small. It is a tablespoon is a serving, and it is on the other handout, the actual sodium amount is listed. And so the idea is to use small amounts of the fermented food, the sauerkraut in this example, to add to different foods and dishes. So for instance, it can be added to a salad, it can be added to a sandwich. Those are some easy ideas. It can be incorporated into a mixed dish to add a little bit of a tart flavor. If there are other vegetables in the dish. Yeah, so let me show the other handout. Okay. So this one actually is for a larger amount. It's 5 pounds of cabbage and 3 tablespoons of salt. So this would be quite a bit more in terms of volume. The nutrition facts are listed down here. So a quarter cup is the equivalent of 2 tablespoons actually. So to adjust, to reduce the sodium, to some extent, you could take the half portion of 1 tablespoon, and that would cut the sodium level in half and still allow, enjoying a little bit of a food that may be a little bit higher in sodium, but when the serving amount is smaller, then it still reduces the total amount of sodium. And so you can see that this is a pretty low calorie food, only 14 calories, and this is for a 1/4 cup serving here. And it's relatively low in carbohydrate, and it does provide fiber and these other levels of vitamins and minerals listed. And the recipe for this is also available at this website. And there are many other recipes on both websites actually for fermented type foods. And the fermented foods are the foods that are going to help support all of the health benefits we discussed due to the probiotics found in those foods, in the fermented foods. And just as an additional idea to help support good digestion, a few other things that can be very helpful would be, for instance, ginger, raw ginger, that does help support good digestion, and also having a small amount of acidic food before a meal helps to stimulate gastric juices and improve digestion. So a squeeze of lemon on a salad or something like that, or a little bit of lemon in warm water. Those would be ideas for stimulating digestion and improving the digestion of the food that's being eaten in the meal. Okay, so at this point, we can stop recording and then open up for questions.